So I have to say that my uh, revelation was also my coming out story.
Hmm.
Um, I think before that, so the way I came out to, I talked to my sister, and then the next conversation was to my brother, and that was quite hard. Um, and then, because my wife and I had only known each other for 2 or 3 months when we became engaged, and I ripped off that band-aid, and that's how I announced it to the world, was Facebook status,
Mm-hmm.
relationship
Whoa.
status.
Whoa.
Not only am
What?
I engaged, but I'm
What?
engaged to a woman.
What?
So
Wow. How
it
did that
definitely
go?
it definitely was one of those situations where it's just like, okay, do I dare do this? As a matter of fact, I remember that when I did it, I'm like, I'm just doing it. And she goes, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yep." And I get on there
Oh,
and
that's wild.
I type it out and I hit submit, and all of a sudden I think I turned like ghost white because I was just like, oh, I just did that. And I almost wanted to go back and delete it, but then it was just like, no, just leave it. Okay. So some of my closest friends that I had known from freshman year and on, I'm talking like they were family, um, didn't speak to me at all for like a year or two, I think.
They didn't respond to this at all. They didn't send you a
Some,
message or an
some
email
of
or
them,
anything.
some of them, like the ones that I was closest to, no response of any kind. And then finally, after a year or two, I'm like, I'm I, I was scared. I was petrified. But I was like, I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call
Yeah. Yeah.
one person in particular, and hopefully it'll just be, let's we're still friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at first, for the better part of the conversation, that's what it seemed to be. And then when it was about like, okay, well, it's getting late, I gotta go, she started bawling. And I knew,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, here it comes. And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay. I know that this is breaking my friend's heart. And that's not, I didn't do this to you, friend, but I know it's breaking your heart. I know. And I'm sorry. And I told her that. I let her cry and I said, I'm sorry. None of this was to hurt anybody. And when she was able to talk again, she's like, how could you? That's what she said. How could you? And I was just like, how could I what? And she goes, you know better. And don't you even expect to get any kind of support from any of us. This is I call them my Utah family.
Mm-hmm.
They were we went to college together. I moved out to Utah, became practically part of the family. I taught out there before moving back this way after dad died, and she just flat out went down the list of their family members and being like, don't try to get support from mom, don't try to get support from dad, don't try to get support from any of the siblings because they
Mm-hmm.
all feel the same way that I do. And I'm just like, okay. And it was heartbreaking. It was very, very heartbreaking. And on the Facebook side of it, I did have people. I had one person that I've known my entire life, back from our landmark days,
Mm-hmm.
get on there and say that mom and dad were rolling over in their graves.
Oh, fuck them.
And
That.
all of these, I mean, he just started preaching. And I got on there and I was like, hey, if you want to talk to me about this, private message me, but don't do it on here. He didn't stop. I had to remove him. I had to block him. I had to block him as, he was unfriended, blocked.
Mm-hmm.
Another person from, you're going to love this, another person from Utah got on there and said, Heather, I need to ask for your forgiveness. And I'm like, why? And we hadn't talked since I was out in Utah. So it's been several years.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I just really believe that if we had kept in better touch, then you wouldn't have gone down this road. And I was just like, I got on there and I'm like, how do I say this delicately? who do you think you are?
Yeah, yeah. Wow,
And
wow.
I was just like, I literally take offense. I told him this. I said, I literally
Mhm,
take offense at the fact that you think that you have that much influence in my life.
mhm.
We were just friends. We weren't even really that close. And that what I've done is like some bad result of a lack of communication.
With
No.
this one particular person, yeah, it's like
And it was just like, no. I'm thankful for the strength that I had to embrace, here's who I am and I'm not ashamed of it.
mhm.
Do I have my own personal struggles with what that means with my faith? Yes, I do. But I
Really?
also, yeah, but I also, so I still consider myself a believer.
Mhm.
It's just, what does that look like? Because what it comes down to, and here's what I wrote. You mind if I jump ahead real quick to the what are your
No.
current thoughts? Okay.
Yeah.
I've always been very strong in my faith until I wasn't. I hit a wall there back in 2016 around there and just really struggled. But even then I rested in the knowledge that God would always hold on to me.
Mhm.
That he was a lot bigger than all of the bullshit that people were giving me. And even my own bullshit, okay? Because I bring a lot of bullshit to the table.
Mhm.
Now, what I absolutely do know is that the God that I believe in is not the same God I was raised to believe in many
Mhm.
respects. And when I say in many respects, I don't look at my childhood and my past and completely discount all of it.
Mhm.
I do believe that, like going back to my parents, I do believe that they raised they raised me to believe in the loving God that there is. What
Mhm.
I believe. Okay. Um, I do struggle to know now what I believe, what my belief looks like. I
Right.
really couldn't define it at this point. A part of me wonders if, and I thought about this after you and I talked the other day on the phone. It struck me, and I was like, a part of me wonders if I can't completely let go of the faith of my past because
Mhm.
I've lost my past in every other way. Like my
Hmm.
dynamic with my family is completely. I mean, key members of my family are literally gone. My parents, my grandparents on both sides, aunts and uncles out the wazoo. So many have died. And those who are here, it is so different. We don't communicate. It's sad. It's very sad. So, and then my friends, the friends that I would have considered my lifelong friends, have literally turned away from me. And so, is that part of why I have a hard time letting go of, like, completely letting go and being willing to say that's not what I believe and I believe in something completely different? Very possibly.
Mhm.
And I own that, and that's something that's an internal thing that I've gotta work through. Um, when it comes to established religions, that's where I tend to cringe. When it
Mhm.
comes to, like, the church. I'm not saying there are bad church that all churches out there and all religions are bad, not at all. But it's the institution that I have struggled with the most from the IFB movement.
Mhm.
Um, so to this day, I believe that there is a strength in acknowledging faiths and spiritualities, and very much my philosophy is to each their own.
Mhm.
Um, my wife is an agnostic atheist. That was another thing when we were watching the episode with you and Trevor, and you defined that for the
Mhm.
listeners. It was just like, yeah. Um, I have to say, I probably lean a lot more towards the agnostic side um, than ever before.
Mhm.
And what it looks like after that, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
and I'm not ashamed for not knowing. I used to be ashamed. I used to be ashamed and think I was a woman of principles and I knew what I believed and I believed what I knew and it's just like, you know what? Chill.
yeah. Yeah, it's just it's just the thing that I always say that I miss the most from those days is the certainty. That was
Yeah.
great. it was great knowing all the answers. And fortunately, I happen to know the answer to everything else, so I can at least take solace in that. But when it comes to religious stuff, I don't have any answers at all, and nobody does. That's why. So you were talking about how your goal here isn't to state that you think that all churches or religious institutions are bad. However, but they are all made up. It's important to point that out. So like when you're saying that, to each their own, because it's all made up. It's all people just making guesses with the best available knowledge that they have, and to not act like it's more than it actually is. That's what.
One of the other things that, and this is typically well known mantra, I guess you could say, is religions exist because we need them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If that's the only reason why a religion exists or a faith exists is because we, as finite beings, need something greater than us, go for it.
Yeah.
What harm does it do? The harm comes in to those that actually start causing harm.
That's it. Yeah.
And that's kind of the crux of this whole matter.
Exactly. Because so my thing is with religion, why I don't particularly care for it. Now I have a lot of complex opposite surprise that everybody does, but is that like belief, like say you have a belief in a deity or multiple deities or whatever. All right, like that in and of itself, I mean, fine. But once you start putting rules and a system in there that you can't verify, you're essentially training people to be superstitious, and that's not good. Like that, I don't think that. Now it's funny. So I don't know if we talked about this. I lose track with these conversations with Trevor, or whatever. I have my own theory about why religion is so ingrained in humanity, and it's not. I mean, I'm the only person to think of it, but essentially, if you go back to like early human civilizations, like let's say you go back in time 200,000 years, and all the people. We have, just barely stepped out of ape mode, and we're living in the African savannah. Your lifespan is like 28 years, and you eat roots and berries and try not to get devoured by a lion. That's your entire life. And then the people that you're with, you're in a tribe of 150 to 200 people. You're related to most of them. You know them all. That is your community. And you're like, okay, so I'm going to trust this person here because she's my cousin. And I'm going to trust this person here because I've known him since I was a child. You run across someone new. You don't know if this is someone you could trust or not. Someone like a different tribe of people, they might be trying to steal your resources. They might be out to murder you. You don't know because you have nothing in common. But you start talking to them and you mention you worship the moon god. Like, I worship the moon god too. Now you got something in common. So I think the people who were, more likely to believe in a religion, were more likely to procreate because they built a stronger community. And that's one of the strengths of religious communities, that it gives people purpose and a sense of community that's actually really hard to replace.
Is huge.
Yeah. It's really hard to replace once it's gone. Like I haven't found an equal substitute to that. And this is something that I have a hard time explaining to people who didn't grow up the way we do, because a lot of folks, they say that, like politically or whatever, they'll say that, these religions, they don't really believe all of that awful, evil stuff and everything. They're just, taking God's word and they're twisting it. And I was like, sometimes, but sometimes they're not twisting it at all. Sometimes that's literally what it says. And they're just using it. And it just happens to be, Bronze Age barbarism. So it's going to be pretty bad. But they say that people don't really believe this. Yes, they do. Like we actually believe this. And so I always said, whenever I lost my faith, when I realized that I was an atheist, it felt like I lost a limb. Like it was one of the worst periods of my life, because God was not a thought experiment for me. God was my friend. And, a phrase that they always said in this movement was that, Jesus is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And that's kind of what it felt like. Although that was always a funny phrase to me, because that's from the book of Proverbs. And it's not talking about God at all. Like the verse is, a man who has friends must show himself friendly, and there's friends who stick closer than a brother. It's like, let's just talk about
Right.
friends. But that was just weird.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
works. It works for the whole thing with God.
Yeah.
So, making sure that God being in your life is such a comfort and a solace, and He is your friend. And I 100% get what you're talking about. That, especially going through, I mean, so nobody stuck around from your past then, from like college, or I mean, I don't know how many people you still knew from Maranatha by that time, like in.
Uh, I've I've not really kept in touch with
Mhm.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, I'm kind of terrible. I thought that, through the years, through college, because I started at Bob Jones, and then I went to Northland, and
Wait,
I
you went to Bob Jones for how long?
yeah, for a year.
I didn't know that, huh?
Yeah, yeah. That's where I wanted to go,
Mhm.
and and then I during my summers of college, at Northland, I volunteered at a youth camp in Southwest New Mexico, and I spent a summer out in Guam when Matt was out there. So there's been significant times in my life where I'm like, immersed in these communities of people where I get really close to them, and everything's like, we're gonna stay in touch. And that hasn't I am where I am, and I
Mhm.
don't do a good job afterwards keeping in touch. But I have to say that for the few people that I knew, and they became like family to me through college and after college during my years of teaching, those are the ones that it hurts the most
Yeah.
to. Yeah,
Damn.
yeah. Um,
Oh.
but I have a new family.
Yeah.
I have a new family. I have a found family, and very, very grateful for them. I have a great job. Um, we have our fur babies. That's important. And I have my wife's family.
Mhm.
They're very, very supportive. We're actually going out to see them in a couple weeks. She grew up on Long Island. Is it in
Mhm.
Long Island or on Long
On
on
Long
Long Island? They get
Like
really
on Guam.
testy. They get
Like
really
on
testy
Guam.
when you say it the wrong way. It's like, it's not in Long Island. It's on Long. Okay.
I know, right? It's like
So so yeah, she's got a great family. They are very supportive of us, and she's the oldest sister of a bunch of younger brothers who love teasing her
ah.
that they call her all kinds of crass lesbian names,
What the
but
fuck? What
it's
the
it's
fuck?
I'm not gonna go into that, but they're just like, oh, look at you, sis, you're getting it.
Oh, what the
So
fuck?
we
All
have
right.
we have a good time. We have a good
That's
time.
good
So
stuff.
yeah.
I want to close there. You mentioned that you said that you actually had a hard time keeping up with people in the past and the stuff like that.
Mhm.
You were just moving on anyway. Did you ever watch Mad Men? Have you ever seen that show?
Mad.
Mad Men. Well,
Oh,
it's they're advertisers in
yes. Yes.
yeah, Don
Yes, I
Draper.
did
And
see that.
so
Okay. Yeah.
so
I
there
was
was an
looking it up.
episode. Yeah, Don Draper, he like it's not his real name. He took the name of a guy who died in the war and he started a brand new life under a fake
Yes.
personality. And I remember a line he said when his brother finds him. His brother is like, it's been 10 years and I haven't seen you. What's been going on? And he's like, his brother's name is Adam. He says, Adam, my life moves in one direction, forward. And that's what I thought of when you said that. And I was like, when you
No, and
said
it's not even that's funny. That's
it
really
is
funny.
funny. Yeah.
It's more of I'm so present with
Mhm.
where I am that it's like, it's not that I don't appreciate the bond that we had then, but I I'm bonding with different people.
Your
It's
life
it's
moves
it's
away.
something it's something I always tried to deny. I always tried to deny. I thought somewhere along the line I realized, you know what? I just need to own this. And when
Mhm.
I'm saying goodbye to these friends, like when I left Guam, it's like, I'm probably not going to keep in touch, but
Just so you
been
guys know.
great, you know. So
And the second thing I wanted to close out with before we end this here, we actually did 2 episodes on Bob Jones
really,
for the show. Yeah, we did an episode. The first, it may have been our second episode we did, and I talked about. It was mainly about Bob Jones Sr. and how, you know, he started the university, and some wild stuff he says there. There's one line he says he was active in South Carolina politics back in the 20s or 30s or something, and he wrote this article and talking about why this guy shouldn't be elected for governor or whatever it was. And what did he say? He said that I would rather a drunkard be president or be governor than, it's president. He said, I would rather a drunkard win the presidency than this guy. And then he says, I would rather an N-word be the president than this guy. It's like, yeah, it was, Bob Jones has a colorful past, if you want to look at that guy.
He was against that guy.
Oh yeah, apparently so. Yeah, he was. Wow. So yeah, Bob Jones. We did a couple episodes on them, but that was some fantastic stuff. But all right, well, Heather, I appreciate this so much. We'll definitely have you on again because there's a lot of topics I'd love to cover with you. A lot more. Like on the, I want to find another term for nerd shit. Going into like the intro. You already, you know what I'm talking about, like with the Bible and stuff like that. Yeah. And the college experience. Like a lot of our talks are about specifically colleges. And I only know a very little bit about Northland. And I'd like to get, and I'm glad to hear you went to Bob Jones too, to get kind of the experience from there. So the next couple of weeks we are booked, but if you have something that you would like to discuss too, I'd love to. Just let me know and we could, definitely set it up.
I'll be in touch with that. And I really appreciate you doing this and giving me the opportunity to get on here. And trudging up the past, and you don't want to like run people through the mud and stuff because of past things, and because that's something else that I've learned is, you know what, just because shit has happened and people have done some awful things, you've got a chance to move forward and become a better person. I don't care what age you are. And that in and of itself is kind of outside the paradigm of, no, you've done those sins, and therefore,
that's true.
So, but I appreciate this opportunity.
No problem.
And it was good seeing you and talking.
It was great, yeah.
I know. Past, man.
Yeah, we dropped in for the first time in 25 years. This is
fine.
I know. It's perfectly okay.
It's good. Awesome. I love it.
All right, so I'm going to close out here on the stream. So yeah, thanks.